Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Colony Drop. My name is Brian.
And my name is Isaac. This is your favorite Gundam podcast where each week we drop another episode where we talk about Gunpla, mobile suits, the lore of Gundam, anime series, everything Gundam related, Brian. Isn't that right?
That is right. And it's funny you mentioned lore, Isaac, because what we're talking about today, I think, creates a lot of good additions to the lore.
You're damn right it does.
So today's topic is something that several people have actually requested us to talk about. So I really appreciate your suggestions. I think it was a great suggestion. The topic of today's episode is Mobile Suit Gundam MS IGLOO. So MS IGLOO is a trilogy of OVAs, all of which are CG animated, and each part of the trilogy is 3 episodes. We're going to be talking about the first part of the trilogy today, which was released in 2004, and it's called The Hidden One-Year War. Isaac, had you heard of MS IGLOO before we started this? I had heard about it when it came out. I never really watched it, though, but I'm glad I did.
Yeah, I heard of it in hushed whispers, Brian. I was aware of its existence. I'd seen maybe like a handful of screenshots. Other than that, I wasn't too familiar with the story or what exactly was happening. I actually thought off the top of my head, okay, this is going to be, it's going to be a Sentinel, right? Or an 8th MS team sort of thing, right? There was, as usual, leftover parts or a prototype Gundam during the 1-year war we never heard about, and it had all this little action adventure on like a corner of the Earth sphere, right? But that's not at all what MS IGLOO ended up being. So I was happily surprised that we listened to our listeners, because that's the type of people we are. We listen to our listeners. And we actually enjoyed this often forgotten, or totally forgotten, really, nugget of Gundam.
Yeah, I don't really see people talking about this.
No.
I could kind of see why, right? It's like early 2000s, mid-2000s CG, which probably hasn't really aged the best.
Looks a heck of a lot better than G-Savior CG, I'll tell you that much, though.
I mean, yeah.
Blows them out of the water.
No argument there.
I'll watch 6 hours of this over G-Savior.
Yeah, that's probably the thing that holds the show down the most is just maybe that mechanism of delivery hasn't aged super well.
Yeah. If you saw a screenshot of this, maybe like you did a search in whatever your streaming service is, and this was in there along with, a bunch of other Gundam series, you would be forgiven for passing this over because, hey, that looks dated and, in a way, ugly.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like you're watching a late PS2 game.
Yeah, wow. That's great. These are the PS2 cutscenes.
Right? I mean, maybe PS3. Right?
Right, yeah. Your older brother or uncle walks by and he's like, are you playing like the old Resident Evil? Like, no, this is a Gundam.
Yeah. But if you can get past that, and, I don't particularly care if something has dated animation. I mean, if you're a Gundam fan and you like the original Gundam, then, it's got dated animation. Yeah. It's just something you're going to have to deal with. Dated CG is a little bit different, and then it just kind of looks weird. Right? There's that sort of uncanny valley thing happening sometimes.
I'd even go so far as to say, to an extent, dated hand-drawn animation, anime cartoons, it can almost come off as charming, even though it's a style we don't really do anymore. But dated CG sometimes comes off as kind of cringy, or like you almost point it out and you're like, wow, we really used to think that was realistic.
Oh, I 100% agree. I would much prefer dated hand-drawn animation than dated CG. This is more common in the video game space, I think, right? So, like, Super Nintendo games, to me, have aged way better than, say, Nintendo 64 games or PS1 games.
Interesting, yeah.
The hand-drawn, more sprite work, it just looks better 30 years later.
Bits age better.
Yeah. If you go back and play, like, Crash Bandicoot or, GoldenEye, you're like, wow, this is not what I remember it looking like. And it's just because you've been watching things evolve for 20 years. But things can look a little rough. So the synopsis on Wiki is the one I like the most. So for the Hidden One-Year War, it says, taking place at roughly the same time as the original Mobile Suit Gundam, MS IGLOO follows the exploits of the Principality of Zeon's 603rd Technical Evaluation Unit, a special crew of weapons development researchers, stationed aboard the former civilian cargo ship, the Jotunheim, named after the land of giants in Norse mythology. the unit field tests various.
Right.
that Norse.
Sir, you got to grasp the language of your people. Your ancestors are just shaking their heads at the clouds in the sky. Oh my God.
I got Jotunheim right, I think.
Odin's raven.
The unit field tests various prototype weapons for combat use under the supervision of Engineer Lieutenant Oliver May. So, how would you describe this? If you were pitching this to someone, Isaac, high level, what would you say this show is?
I'd say, okay, we were already established, the hero side. Let's use a minuscule amount of the budget and the time to just give a slice of a lot of stuff that was happening on the Zeon side. And maybe it is a bizarre story in a way, right? I mean, if you're going to tell the side of Zeon, you'd think maybe, okay, we'll follow the group of ace pilots or something, or I don't know, a Black TriStar story or something. But instead, they made this story pretty much from the ground up about an experimental weapons testing team. That's how I would describe it. We're going to tell an interesting, unique story from the point of view of Zeon. And it's going to be very small and bite-sized compared to the one-year war itself and the original Mobile Suit Gundam. But it's going to give an interesting point of view for fans. I think they'll really appreciate.
Yeah, and what I liked most about it was that each episode was standalone. That was refreshing, I found.
Right, yeah. It was episodic in a good way, and I don't mean of course they're episodes, Isaac, duh. I mean each episode's kind of plot and goal concludes in itself.
That's right. I would say high level, it's about the experimental weapons testing team, and each episode you get to see them test a new weapon, and something goes awry, and creates a conflict, and it's resolved within that same episode. So, for example, episode 1, I watched it, and then I didn't really know that was the case, and so in episode 2, I thought we were going to pick up testing the same weapon. I first thought they were just going to be testing the weapon from episode 1, but it turns out quickly in episode 2, I was like, oh no, we're going in a different direction here. So I was kind of pleasantly surprised. But was one of the episodes your favorite, Isaac?
I'm going to say I like 2 and 3 more than 1. But they're all so unique and interesting. Yeah. I mean, they all deal with such cool, unique weapons and situations that they're in. You learn a lot more about the Universal. I picked up a lot of stuff about the Universal Century just watching them that really fleshed things out for me even more. As long as I've been watching Gundam, I was like, wow, I didn't really think we'd see something like this, but that's pretty cool and it's interesting.
As far as my favorite, I thought it was going to be hard to beat episode 1. And then when episode 2 came around and it was about something else, I was like, I don't know. Episode 1 was pretty good. And then episode 2 ended, and I was like, wow, that was damn good. And then I was like, how are they going to top that in episode 3? And then episode 3 ended, and I was like, all right, that was pretty good too. So I don't know that I really have a clear favorite.
You know why you don't have a clear favorite, Brian? Because each of the episodes hit a different part of combat. We had a fleet battle in space, we had a land battle, and then we had Mobile Suit.
Mm-hmm. You're right. And I think that was probably intentional on the production team.
They went down the checklist. They're like, all right, everybody gets a fun time no matter what you like in Gundam.
Yep. Let's dive into the first episode unless you have anything else.
No, dive away.
All right. The first episode was called The Vanishing Serpent of Loom, which, by the way, that's like one of the coolest titles ever. I love that already. The first thing that stuck out to me about this episode, Isaac, is it begins super early in the 1 year war. January 4th, that came on the screen, and I was like, holy cow. This is like, early days here.
Yeah, it's so early. We see Operation British, essentially. We don't even see Operation British when it happens, like when it lands on Earth, or not even lands, that's a wrong word. When it crashes, obliterates onto the planet.
When it makes its soft landing, you mean?
I think they said it was a few days before it actually gets to Earth, right? Something like that?
Yeah, they were basically flying. The story kind of opens. We see our ship, the Jotunheim. We meet our characters who, on the character side, Isaac, the Jotunheim has people on it that are, I would call the main characters, but they're not really... The main characters are the people who interact with the weapons more so, I would say. I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah,
I'd actually go a bit further and to say this series, to an extent, it got kind of Phantom Menaced. Right? I mean, okay, maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves to an extent. The main character by a nose, is Oliver May,
Yeah.
who's, I forgot his actual rank, but he's kind of the point man in the evaluation team. He's not a very high officer. He kind of takes orders from like the engineering corps, I think. He seems to be technically below the captain of the ship, the Jotunheim, since he has to pretty much do what the captain says to an extent. But he's kind of eyes and ears. He's the one kind of leading the project and the evaluation for our special weapon, Jormungand.
Yes, although it's probably pronounced Jormungand or something like that, I would imagine.
Probably, but we're in the United States, so that J is going to be a J.
I'm trying to speak the language of my people, as you said earlier.
You know what? They would give you a pass for saying it how we do using American English. Okay, anyways, Jormungand.
It's also tough, right? Because this show is never dubbed. So there's no English vocals out there. So it's not like I have reference for how they went and pronounced Jormungand or the Jotunheim. But
right, and as somebody that's pro dub, all the time, let me just say these 3 episodes were engaging enough and interesting enough that I didn't care. I was happy to
you
read
were just like,
the subtitles.
Oh, there's so much Zeon on my screen.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, this is so good. Give me more. Anyways,
yeah,
yes.
So
episode 1.
So I would say that our main characters that we meet on the Jotunheim in episode 1 are Oliver May, as you said. We have the captain, who's Captain Martin Prochnow.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Lieutenant Commander Monique Cadillac, who you have to get one of them ridiculous Gundam names in there. Yeah. And she's it. So not only is her name Monique Cadillac, but she wears a bright red uniform, which looks straight out of something that Char would be wearing in Char's counterattack.
I put on my notes, she's on the short list of Zeon that we see in a red uniform.
Yeah.
Her, Shima,
mm-hmm.
Char, man, whatever specific rank that is or special type of lieutenant you are, you must have a lot of pull in a lot of situations.
She also reminds me of Cecily from F91. It's not Zeon, but striking red uniform.
Yeah, red hair too.
But yeah, I agree. Short list, the red uniform. It definitely stands out. Like I would say the whole series has kind of like a drab color palette, but when she pops on the screen, you're like, oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, she did kind of carry herself that way too.
Right.
I mean, she seemed when she came on board, she did kind of give a dismissive comment to the captain, right? Like, what did he? Oh yeah, she told him something like, "Well, maybe if we had better leadership," or something like that. And the captain he didn't really address the comment, but he clearly didn't like it. So maybe it's a case of they're different branches and they're at least kind of equal, where one can't really tell the other what to do, so she can get away with that comment.
Yeah, that's how I took it.
Yeah.
So it sounded like he was the captain of the ship, but then for this particular mission, she was put in charge of sort of the weapons testing, and that he can't really tell her what to do. But she can't really tell him what to do either. So it's kind of just this stalemate.
Brian, I'm so excited. Do we need to talk about like the episode play by play, or do we just kind of like jump into what we liked about it?
I have like a paragraph about the episode. I mean, it's very short. So
do it.
We open, and the ship kind of the Jotunheim is with some Musais and like a Papua, I think. Which crazy that the Papua is getting some love here. I mean, go listen to our episode on capital ships where Isaac talks about the Papua.
We see it a lot.
We do.
This is not the only Papua we see in the series.
No, it is not. Our Jotunheim and the Musai escorts get attacked by some Salamises. We figure out very quickly that the Jotunheim is perhaps hiding some sort of secret cargo. And that's when you get the first sense that this team is testing something, Isaac.
Mm-hmm.
And then I believe after that battle, that's when we see Operation British, or at least the precursor to Operation British, which is when they see some Musais flying by, escorting Island Ifish, which was the colony that was taken to go drop on Earth. And that's when you get the first instance where the narrative portrays your protagonist, in this case Oliver May, as like a good guy, right? Because he's immediately upset, because I think he immediately understands what's happening. He says, this is not right, and he immediately asks, what happened to the 20 million people living inside? They didn't outright say it in this show, but I mean, we all know that those people were gassed.
Right.
And Cadillac, I think she starts going on, this is an expected action in war. Things are done for emergencies or something like that. But I thought that was interesting. The first big lore bomb of the show, I suppose.
Oh god, it was so interesting. That's massively interesting as a point, even as somebody that likes Zeon, because the captain, he kind of moved the ship at the last second because he didn't seem fully aware what was happening either.
Right.
And yeah, I don't think Cadillac was too happy about it either, because if you remember, May's pointing it out to her. He's like, what happened to the people? Blah blah blah. What are we doing? We're actually dropping a colony. Do you know what that'll do to Earth? And then Cadillac kind of like, she makes a very upset face and kind of turns away, and it's just like, I think her mental sort of self-defense reason is, well, we have to do a surprise attack. Surprise attacks are normal in war. And then she just kind of had enough of it and wanted to move on. That's why I think she called him an idiot right and threw him.
Yeah, I agree. She was not happy.
I really don't want to be reminded that I'm I'm part of an organization committing a war crime and atrocity. Let's change the subject. Yeah.
She acknowledges it's not right, but she accepted it, whereas I don't think Oliver wanted to be a part of it. But then we sort of get into the meat of the episode after that, which is they head into the Battle of Loom, Isaac, presumably a few days later.
Less than a week. It seemed like it was either the next day or two.
And that's when we see him set up the weapon that we're testing in this episode, which is the Jormungand. And It is a anti-ship cannon. How would you describe this thing, Isaac? It's a giant cannon with space stabilizers that loads anti-ship charge bullets.
Yeah. All right. From what I read about this weapon, it's a type of plasma cannon, and it's about the size of a musai, maybe a bit longer or shorter, but obviously big enough that it's a capital ship size. It's really fired by one person, but it seems to have massive ammo. When they're viewing it inside of their actual cargo hole, it looks like about an average height person could stand inside the barrel.
Yeah.
So it's massive, or at least fit inside the barrel, certainly, maybe like in like a fetal position. But anyways, this is a massive weapon, and it fires plasma at extremely long range. My headcanon for why this was built is that at this stage, Zeon was trying to figure out how would you go toe-to-toe with an enemy that outnumbers you and, for all intents and purposes, has an actual standing fleet, whereas yours is kind of brand new. You build a special weapon that can outrange them so their numbers never really get close, and you can kind of pick them off as they try to close the distance. That was the only logical explanation I thought of why this weapon would actually get the go-ahead.
The range is the key thing, right? So
right.
When they introduce it, they say, look, this ship can blow up a Magellan in one shot, and it can do it outside of the Magellan's range.
Yeah.
It's basically an anti-ship sniper rifle.
Right, exactly. And it's actually based on, not to not to turn into the history nerd again, but it's actually based on a weapon that the Germans used in the Second World War. It was called the V3 cannon, which was a cannon so large they had to build it on a hill because it couldn't support its own weight.
Wow.
And a lot like the Jormungand, if you look at it, there's canisters along the side of the barrel. And the way the gun works is, with a normal gun, you pull the trigger, the bullet goes off and goes down the barrel. It's losing speed as it keeps going down the barrel. So the logic here was, okay, as it passes all these multiple charges lining the barrel, they'll go off and it'll keep speeding up.
Oh, yeah. And does it speed up, Isaac?
It sure does.
So they assemble this thing, right? And I guess what had happened is that the plan was, because Minovsky particles are interfering with everything, they need some particular laser targeting data. And they're waiting for the forces who are actually in the Battle of Loom to send them back that targeting data so they can know where to shoot their shot, right? And the gunnery sergeant is gunnery officer, yeah. I think.
Yeah.
Alexandro Hem. He's your sort of main character in episode 1. He's the guy who's really itching to pull that trigger, Isaac. Before the Battle of Loom starts, your pal Degwin flies by in the Great Degwin and says, "Hey,
wow,
we are counting on you, 603rd Technical Evaluation Unit in the Jotunheim. Make sure you fire that cannon because it's going to win us the war."
The crew went nuts when they saw that. They're like, "Oh my God, it's Degwin!"
I'm so honored. And then the battle starts, and no one's sending them their data, Isaac.
In their defense, every one of those musais are busy.
That's very true.
We don't have time to send targeting data to a cannon that's like way past the actual front line.
That's true. So the crew's like, why aren't we getting the data? So May and our other friend who joined the crew when Cadillac came on board was Washia. They take off in this small little shuttle to kind of just go get the data themselves, right? They want to fire this gun. They want to contribute to the battle. But before they can get to the battle, Isaac, who are they confronted by?
They get a unexpected flyby by mobile suits, which have never been seen before in combat. And stopping in front of their little shuttle, their little scout shuttle, is none other than a red Zaku. And it's Char. And he communicates to them using only Morse code. I don't know why. But
why didn't he just use his radio? Like, hey guys, it's cool, we got it. Let's just go back.
He decided to be dramatic, and like he uses his mono-eye to like Morse code them a message that like it'll be okay, and it's time for the mobile suits to go out, and your services are no longer needed or something.
Yep. But you know what? The gunnery sergeant was like, the hell with that, I'm firing. So he fires the shot, and he misses. I mean, it's pretty far.
Yeah.
And he's going by eyesight, and his little targeting thing looked like it was very unstable.
In his defense, though, like, I guess a credit to the Jormungand itself, the blast, even though he missed, it generated enough force, I guess, that it moved the Salamis. It
did.
Missed.
It did. It pushed it back, and it twirled around, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
Yeah. Man, the Salamises in this series, like if you remember the opening battle, those things can turn on a dime.
Yeah, they seemed super agile here.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was like, it moves like a fighter.
I don't think we've seen him look like that in other series, is maybe why it looked a little weird. But
that was a custom Salamis we have to do a side story on. That was the captain of the Quick Beam or something like that. Gundam Quicksilver.
So he fires once, misses. He fires twice, misses again. And then one of the Magellan, is it a Magellan? I think it's a Magellan that breaks through.
Yeah, I was trying to, what was the thinking of that Magellan captain? I
don't know.
He's a Magellan, so we know he's not your run-of-the-mill captain, right? He's probably pretty high up if they gave him Magellan.
Yeah.
Number 2, he broke with the fleet. I know he's damaged, but is this kind of like a suicide attack?
That's how I took it. I thought he was kind of like, well, I'm damaged. I broke the line. I'm running away. I might as well go shoot this guy over here.
Yeah. So he attacks the weapon that has not destroyed a single missile.
Well, I guess if you're the Federation, right, you see that fire and you're like, oh crap, what is that? Someone better go get that, right?
Right. Yeah.
Maybe that was the logic here of someone better go destroy that cannon before it does start killing people. So the Magellan breaks through, and then Jotunheim gets hit. He gets a decent hit on it, and our gunnery officer, he gets pretty wounded, pretty seriously. But damn it, Isaac, he is determined to shoot down this Magellan, and it gets closer and closer. And the whole time, this guy he's basically he's lamenting that sort of gunnery skills are going out of fashion in favor of mobile suits, because at this point, the Jotunheim realizes that they weren't actually being relied upon on Degwin, and that was all just lip service, because the real plan was to use the Zakus, which, to be fair to Degwin, the Zakus are working out great in the Battle of Loom, right?
Yeah, that was so nice of Degwin. Like, it was like, Your Highness, if you'll notice on the port side, there is a test weapon, a new cannon we're developing. Can we have permission to send them like a message that we're counting on them? Sure, whatever.
We need a pep talk. Give them some motivation, sir.
Whatever, maybe it'll work out. I don't know. Tell them we're all counting on them. Couldn't do it without you guys.
Yeah. So at this point, the Captain Prochnow, he is prioritizing the safety of the crew, right? And Jotunheim's going to get out of there. But that gunnery sergeant, damn it, Isaac, he's going to get his third shot in, and he fires that thing. And what happens to that Magellan?
It goes through it like a hot knife through butter. I've never seen a weapon do this before in Gundam. It like inflates the Magellan in like a half second, warps all the metal. It makes it kind of like magma-y, and then the Magellan explodes.
Yeah. The only word I can describe this with is just pure annihilation.
Yeah.
The people in the Magellan were alive 1 second, and then just superheated and ballooned the next second.
Yeah, it was glorious.
It was pretty amazing. And then of course, Alexander Hem succumbs to his injuries and dies. But by doing so, he prevented the destruction of the Jormungand.
Give that man a medal.
He deserves it. And so Oliver then writes his first report of the series after this is over, and basically just says that the power of the cannon was outstanding, but it has not been seen on the battlefield since, which is very sad.
Yeah, I mean, it can't work. Like I'm trying to think of what the engineering team was thinking, or maybe this gun was in development before Minovsky particles, but a weapon where you need advanced spotters to shoot, it's kind of, I don't know, that doesn't really work in fleet combat, I think.
I think it could work for special operations. Probably the battle loom, maybe not the best.
No.
One thing I did notice, that I looked on the wiki, and there is a manga adaptation of 083 called 083 Rebellion. And apparently, either the same Jormungand or a new one called the Jormungand Kai comes back, and it's used by the Delaz fleet to destroy the control ship of the Solar System 2. And that was not shown in the anime.
That's not what happens
No,
in
well,
the
yeah,
anime.
in the anime, I mean, Ganto blows it up, but...
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, that's pretty cool.
Interesting.
I would have liked to have seen it again.
Yeah, I actually would have liked to see that in the anime. That would be pretty cool.
If you think about timeline, though, the Jormungand was made in 2004, and 083 was made in, 1995, 3,
That's
something
true.
early, so can't really do that. I wonder when the manga adaptation was made. If it was made after MS IGLOO, then that makes sense.
Huh.
But anyway, I love those inclusions of the lore. I would like to see the Jormungand pop up somewhere else in the 1 Year War, because this was very early on, right? So it must have sat somewhere in some warehouse. So someone should bring it back in some series.
Hopefully they do.
Yeah, I liked it. What do you think of the Jormungand in general, Isaac?
I thought it was pretty cool. I had a feeling it wouldn't do a ton, if any, damage, just because we never hear about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would be very interested in maybe adapting part of it, or at least it's paying an homage to it in some way for my plan to build a Gelgoog super sniper.
Oh, that would be awesome. The Gelgoog Jormungand.
The Jormagoog. They're sending out the Jormagoog. I guess they're going to pick us off one by one.
Don't get in front of the gun. That's my advice.
That's pretty hard to do. He's like really far away.
Anything further on episode 1, Isaac, or should we proceed?
No, it was pretty great. Yeah, as someone that went into it blind, I thought it was pretty interesting. I'll also say that I think in this episode, do you remember the captain made a comment that like Cadillac looks like a Yorkshire Terrier?
he did. I
that
do
his
remember
mom
that.
used to have or something like that.
He did not like Cadillac, or at least he was very dismissive.
Was that like a polite way of saying to like everyone on the bridge that she's literally like a bitch?
I took it as either that, or maybe that he was saying that she was not from combat, like not of combat. You know, like
she's a yipping dog.
Right.
She just runs around, a little purse dog.
Right.
Why is she on my bridge?
Trying to yell above her weight, maybe.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, to his credit, he didn't say it to her face or anything like that. So he's like, yeah, you know what? I'll let you make your own bed. Anyways,
I liked the captain. I thought he was a good character.
Yeah, he comes off as pretty reserved, but not really blood hungry or anything like bloodthirsty. I mean, blood hungry, bloodthirsty.
Yeah,
blood hungry is when we're on the King Space Pig and we want blood sausage. But yeah, episode 1, walked into it blind, extremely happy, really interesting. Can't recommend it enough.
Yeah. So then I thought, okay, episode 2, let's go. Let's find out what happens to the Jormungand. I thought we were gonna deploy it somewhere else, but no, Isaac. Instead, we jumped to episode 2, which is called "The Howl That Died the Setting Sun," and it is now April, so it's 4 months in the future. And now we're in Arizona, which is very close to you and I.
That was interesting. I was like, wow. We never aside from the California base, they don't really get too specific with North American locations a lot.
Yeah.
In Gundam, but
yeah.
Yeah, Arizona.
We open with Zaku's approaching a Zeon soldier, and they ask that soldier for some ammo, and then they aim at him, Isaac. And I was like, uh-oh, those aren't normal Zeon Zaku's. I think those are some Federation-controlled Zaku's.
I thought at first, I was like, okay, pirates? I was like, that doesn't make sense. Let's keep watching and wait for a logical explanation.
I like how you assumed that you went straight to pirates and not Federation soldiers taking over Zaku's. Like, you felt the Federation soldiers were so inept that couldn't be a possibility.
No, I felt Zeon pilots would be so brave they would rather destroy their mobile suits than let them be captured.
So immediately after that, we start seeing that our crew on the Jotunheim is dropping supplies from space that will then land on Earth to supply the Zeon soldiers. And I like that. I thought that was great because we've never actually seen how Zeon gets their supplies on Earth.
Yeah, it was a pretty big mass drop. It was like a parade of Papuas. And the Jotunheim, the poor Jotunheim, it has to do like it has to like point its nose up to drop its cargo. I mean, I'm not an astrophysicist or an aerospace engineer, but can't they just push them out the back and then gravity will do the work? Maybe the captain wants to have some fun. I don't know.
Doing some barrel rolls or something.
Yeah.
So we quickly learn that their new mission in this episode is to test the mobile tank called the Hildolfr. It sounded like that this tank was tested at some point in the past, and it didn't meet whatever standards, and so they didn't sort of mass produce it. But now the war is going not so well, so they don't really have time to test new things, so they're just kind of deploying everything they possibly can.
A common pattern.
Yeah. maybe a precursor of things to come later, certainly.
Also, when you saw the tank, Brian, what did you think?
So when I saw the tank initially, I was very underwhelmed. I thought to myself, looks like a normal tank. What is this going to do? What did you think?
I thought to myself, all right, this engineering engineering department, evaluation team, whatever, him and the guy that the guy in the monocle that Oliver May always reports to in his little office. Apparently, when they say engineering, all they mean is cannons. Because that is the only thing this group produces.
Just big cannons.
This is the cannon department in the Zeon military.
Hello, you've reached the cannon department. Please state your inquiry.
All right, team. Our space cannon didn't work out, but we're putting in charge of a new project. Our Earth cannon.
Yes. However, we will soon learn, Isaac, that maybe there is more than meets the eye to this tank.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's pretty massive, and it looked like just a big gun on an even bigger tank. But it had some interesting features.
Yeah. So we have this guy on board. His name is Sonnen, who turns out to be friends, potentially romantically involved with Cadillac in the past. Were we supposed to take that away from that? I'm not sure.
They had a look, so yeah. I wasn't too sure about that, if it was more love at first sight or if it was like, oh, you're here.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
So this guy Sonnen is here to test the tank. And so, of course, things don't go well in the drop, and they have to at some point where they were like, you need to go down in the tank.
Well, it was the HLV, remember? No, I'm sorry. It was their the landing capsule from the Musai that they were in. They were trying to get down, and they get to the actual spot in Arizona that the Fedis and the Zakus have taken.
Yeah.
And as they get closer, I think they start getting shot at. So they're kind of dodging around and stuff, and Sonnen pretty much says, look, open the cargo bay and dump me out the back.
That's right.
You'll be able to maneuver better anyways, and we'll actually have a weapon on the ground.
And then at this point, Isaac, I was still underwhelmed by this tank. I'm thinking to myself, What is this dude going to do in this tank? But to my surprise, this turned out to be one of the best choreographed fight scenes that we've seen.
Holy shit.
It was great. Sonnen just tears these people apart. So first he goes into like what I would call siege tank mode. If you guys have ever played StarCraft, you know what that is. Yeah. So he plants himself in the ground with these like hooks or whatever, and he targets two Zakus right away because he knows as soon as he fires once, he's gonna get spotted. And I'm just expecting like a little tank round here, but no, this dude fires and it just rips that one Zaku apart. Like it just falls apart like it was like if it just made of Legos and all the Legos exploded.
Yeah, like you put like, I don't know, a firework on your action figure and you blew it to pieces.
Yeah, this Zaku just, and I was like, oh, this tank is pretty good.
Yeah. Sonnen's not fighting like, a group of 3 Zakus. There's like...
No, there were 6 of them. 6 Zakus. Yeah. So this dude's taking on 6 Zakus with a tank. Okay? So first of all, this guy's got balls of steel. So he blows the first Zaku away. Now he knows that he's immediately going to get targeted. So the second Zaku he had targeted starts moving around. So he's like, all right, I'm going to confuse this guy with a napalm round. So he fires napalm on the Zaku, and just like he thought, the Fed guy was like, oh god, I'm getting burned. And then while the Zaku's getting burned and distracted, he just flat out fires a real round and just blows that guy away too. So he's already taken out 2 Zakus within 30 seconds, Isaac.
Yeah.
Now the Fed Zaku team, you got to be, pissing your pants, right?
Yeah, I mean, this tank, okay, not only does this thing have like a cannon, but it also moves pretty damn fast for its size.
It is incredibly fast.
It is a fast tank. It's like this massive fast tank. Like, you see those bulldozers sometimes at construction zones, right? Sometimes you see them on like the actual streets moving around. Imagine if one of those was going like 90 miles per hour.
This dude is hauling ass in the desert over these hills. He's got these massive treads, not slowing him down whatsoever.
It's a killdozer.
Yeah. So now I'm like sitting up in my chair. I'm like, oh man, this dude's gonna kill all the Zaku's. So he unfortunately gets hit. One of his tank tread gets hit, I think, Isaac. So he has to slow down a little bit, and he gets stopped. And now I'm like, oh, this dude's screwed. I mean, now the Zaku's are just gonna swarm him. But this tank has so many tricks up its sleeve. He launches a smoke screen, and the foolish Zaku's, they run into the smoke screen like, oh, let's go get him. and then he unveils the secret. It's not just a tank. What is it, Isaac?
Nope. It's a mobile tank. Kind of this hidden part of it rises up, and there's like a half torso of a mobile suit sitting in the tank.
Yep.
It doesn't look like a Zaku tank. I don't know. It looks pretty sinister. It had like this cool kind of dolphin-shaped nose, kind of round like a whale.
It's got the mono eye.
The visor, the mono eye. It's got an arm and a machine gun on the other side.
Yeah, this dude comes up with his own machine gun in his mobile tank hand. So now he's got the cannon and his own machine gun. It just blows that Zaku away with his machine gun, and then he takes that Zaku's machine gun.
Yeah. Well, he ran out of ammo, I think, right? So he needed a new gun.
Yeah. He's like, I'll just take theirs. And then after that, I think one of the other Zaku starts running at him. So then he rams that Zaku, right? Because he can still kind of go. And then he does a wheelie, right? And then I think he like hits him. He hits him with the wheelie somehow.
He got his treads on top of like a Zaku arm, and I think they were in a position such that he couldn't move. So he wisely rotated his cannon to one side of the tank and then fired it so that side of the tank would lift off the ground.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And then he hit the gas so that he'd be moving forward on one tank tread while the other treads lifted up.
Man, what a badass.
Yeah, I mean, my God, this man's a prodigy.
Yeah.
I don't think they train their tank crews to do that.
Well, he is from like the tank team, right? I mean, I guess they have a tank team somewhere.
I mean, the Magella team, right? I guess that's where they pulled him from.
Yeah. Takes out the rest of the Zaku's, except for one, which is like the leader Federation guy. And so that guy kind of gets the better of him. At this point, this dude has pulled his weight with his one tank, right? He's destroyed 5 Zaku's, there's one left. His treads are damaged, he's kind of running low on ammo probably. The final Zaku kind of sneaks up, and they get into like a punching match. And so Sonnen uses the I'll call them the siege shovels that he used to brace himself in the ground earlier. So he's punching the Zaku with the siege shovels, but then the Zaku sticks its little machine gun right into the mono eye and fires. And the Hildolfr kind of goes dead, right? Because it essentially took a bullet to the face. And so then you're pretty disappointed because you're like, oh well, Sonnen's he's probably dead. And then the Zaku turns its attention to the Kamusai. What was your emotional state at this point, Isaac, with the Hildolfr having taken a hit directly to the face?
I felt terrible. I felt like, oh God, this is how this guy taken out. Man, that was such a brutal kill, but also pretty brilliant on the Zaku pilot, the Federation pilot, to do that. That visor can only lead one place.
Yeah, all the important systems. So it was a good move on his part.
Yeah.
But then as the Zaku is making his way to the Kamusai, I wrote down that he fucking implodes from behind as Sonnen fires, a last shot and just hits that Zaku center mass. And similar to the Magellan in the previous episode, this Zaku just is obliterated. Hot damn, Isaac.
Yeah, it left me speechless. I didn't see that coming. I thought he was gone, and it was pretty sad when we did see in the inside of the cockpit that he's not doing okay, Brian.
Yeah, similar to our gunnery officer in episode 1, Mr. Sonnen here, he's not going to make it. So he definitely took some mortal wounds from that Zaku shot into the mono eye. But he did save the day. All the stolen Zaku's had been neutralized at this point. 6 Zaku's taken out with 1 mobile tank. This thing makes the Guntank look like an embarrassment. Where were more of these?
Yeah, and that has 2 cannons.
Yeah.
This brought like so much more to the lore in a way, because we have always thought to ourselves, okay, the Federation made their own mobile suit, right? They made the Gundam. Well, they had to have stolen Zaku's to at least get an idea of what to do, right? So
Right, and this was taking place in April, which is super early. Like Gundam doesn't show up
Yeah.
until September, I believe.
if the Federation's at the point where they can capture Zaku's and use some of them in combat, it means they stole a Zaku pretty early on.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. And also that we didn't really get closure or too many details about whatever relationship he had with Cadillac. You know, it was something private. She knew about it. She didn't really weep too much when he was gone. And, you know, his final thoughts, I don't think were of her. He was more interested in his mints.
Yeah. His mints, in quotes.
They must be really good. I mean, when you get good mints, you get good mints.
What kind of brand do you think they were? Do you think they were Zoloft, or do you think they were?
I mean, you look at the container. These were clearly Zeonic tic-tacs. Today's episode is brought to you by Tic-Tacs, our unofficial sponsor that had not consented to being sponsored.
Not TikTok, Tic-Tacs.
Tic-Tacs. That's for all you kids.
When you have bad breath, you need a Tic-Tac.
Speaking of Tic-Tacs and mints, Sonnen had some kind of problem that they also really didn't address, right? I don't know if that was something neurological or he had a condition or if it was nerves, right? I mean, we see him in the hangar bay when we first meet him, and he tries his best to kind of shrug it off, but May really notices that something's wrong.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that in a few different Gundam series. You know, and we just recently watched Seed, and Rao had the same problem, right, where he needed those pills immediately.
What are they putting these mints?
I don't know. These you know, they're not called Zeonic mints in the cosmic area. They're called Zaft mints or something. But I also didn't Guineas have a similar problem in 8th MS team where he needed some pills?
Oh wow! Oh man, yeah. Pharmaceuticals and mints in Gundam, stay away from them.
Yeah, people just like the real world. You know, there's pill problems in the Universal Century.
You gotta stick to your essential oils like they do in the Federation.
So yeah, I don't know what it was. I couldn't tell if it was neurological or whether it was, you know, something with his heart.
We'll never know.
We'll never know because it doesn't matter. I mean, he's dead now. But man, he went out a blaze of glory. That was an amazing episode.
I like how Sonnen knew he was going into desert combat. Well, I mean, of course he knew. So he put on like a desert uniform, if you noticed.
Oh, yeah, I did not notice. He put on a desert uniform?
He's the only person in like khaki and like the whole shit in Zeon, yeah.
Good for him.
It's like, gotta be comfortable.
I have not looked up the Hildolfr anymore. I don't know if there's any more out there, but I would love to see that come back in some other show.
I mean, why not, right? Like,
there's got to be more.
Actually, I mean, there's a certain point, though, where tank treads, like, you just don't see them anymore.
Yeah, that's fair.
Oh, it was cool to see the Zaku's use their leg missiles, huh?
It was, yeah. Or just the fact that they were, like, looking for ammo was cool, I thought.
Yeah, normally a lot of the times in combat, it seems like everybody's got unlimited ammo, but, you know, Sonnen actually needing to find a gun was pretty cool.
And I also like that he was able to use their gun. That was, where did we see that? Was that in 8th MS team where we figured out that the guns were kind of interchangeable? They like clip into the hands.
Yeah, I
like that. But yeah, I really like the Hildolfr. Didn't think it was much at first, but once it went into mobile tank mode, man, that thing was a beast, and I like it. We need more of that.
Yeah, God, the speed on that thing. That was the kind of the unsung strongest advantage it had.
Yeah.
You know, because those stupid Zaku's were all running around on foot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think they boosted too much, but
no, maybe they didn't have any propellant left. I mean, I guess if you capture a Zaku, you're kind of stuck with what you have, right? I mean, you can't go back to the base to get more.
Yeah, I mean, even if the Federation had a more of an understanding of the Zaku's, that they're able to send them out to fight, or at least be, you know, a secret weapon in this mission, they don't necessarily have the right fuel, maybe, for whatever the Zaku's use to propel.
Yeah, I mean, they could conjure it up, I'm sure, but it's not going to be available at all Federation bases, right? You know.
Maybe they were hoping that, like, that little outpost, that little supply depot, like, they actually had fuel, too.
Right, yeah.
They really needed ammo because they didn't have ammo, but they also wanted fuel.
Could you just give us everything?
Yeah, it's like, you guys have fuel, too? Like, so you don't have fuel or ammo? This is pretty suspicious.
Anything else on episode 2, Isaac?
It was great. I never thought I'd enjoy a Zaku versus tank battle so much, but this is maybe the only Zaku versus tank battle that's happened where the tanks win.
Overwhelmingly won.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
It was awesome.
I love it. Episode 3 is called Dance of the Orbital Ghosts, which, man, they're hitting out of the park on these titles here.
Yeah, God, Igloo team, wherever you are, awesome work.
Why are you not writing the next show?
Yeah, do more side stories, please.
So this one opens up with, we got some more Papuas, Isaac. More Papuas.
Yep, there they go.
They're getting attacked by some balls painted with fearsome color schemes.
Yeah, these are like the... were these balls like bullies when they were younger or something? Because like they're really aggressive.
Yeah, they have these. They're painted what, like shark teeth, basically.
Yeah. They have like everybody, all the listeners know that nose art, right? From like World War II, where they put like the shark in the eyes and the shark mouth on the front of like a plane. It's on the balls.
Yeah, a new mobile suit shows up to fend off the balls, Isaac, which is called the Zuda.
Yeah.
And we soon get a propaganda film that Zeon made that says, you know what, we're doing so well with the Zaku's, and guess what? We got something better than the Zaku coming. It's the Zuda. It's faster and stronger. So the Federation is doomed. And that's maybe not entirely accurate.
No, I think at this point, right, I think the characters or the captain and some characters are discussing that the cracks are starting to appear, right, in the story.
Yes.
So it's becoming clear that the situation on Earth is not as good as has been told, and they know Federation forces are heading towards Odessa, and it's not looking like the fighting on Earth overall is going well.
Right. And along with that not going well on Earth, the engineering director says, hey, Oliver, those old Zudas, they disintegrated during test flights. And Oliver, looking at this last battle where the Zudas fended off the balls, he's like, the new ones are fine, boss. They held together. They're great. I think it's good. The Zuda's good. So then immediately they do another test flight, and one of the Zudas goes too fast and it disintegrates, killing the pilot. Oops.
I think Cadillac, or maybe it was the new character Commander Duval, who says that this wouldn't have happened if he followed orders and slowed down.
And he's right. He's right, by the way.
We told him to slow down,
and he didn't do it. So the new team is led by Jean-Luc Duval, which is a great name, and he's a pilot for Zamad. And I know, Isaac, you're a big fan of these Zeonic mobile suit development rivalries here. We don't often hear from Zamad in like a main animated work.
No, we don't. Zimond was a rival company against Zeonic. Zeonic put out the Zaku. Zimond put out mobile armors throughout the 1 year war, if I'm remembering correctly. And the Zuda is kind of their early attempt at a mobile suit to rival the Zaku, but it didn't perform good enough. That's why Zeon went through and mass-produced the Zaku.
Yeah, and the main reason it didn't perform well enough is because it disintegrated when you go a certain speed.
That might be a problem.
Could be. It's a little dangerous. It seems like the Zuda, though, perhaps is faster than the Zaku on average. It's just you can't push it to that upper limit, maybe.
Maybe. And according to May, Brian, it's pretty much a new mobile suit. We gave it a new number. The numbers all look good. The data won't lie. What could be wrong?
Will the data not lie? So then our friend Oliver goes and checks the data from this test flight, and he goes and he confronts Mr. Jean-Luc Duval. And he says, hey, I was looking at the data here, and it looks like this Zuda, which is now named the EMS-10, disintegrated at the same acceleration curve and limit point, I believe is what he calls it, as the old EMS-04, the old Zuda. And he goes, so are you sure, Mr. Duval, that this is actually a new mobile suit? You just didn't give it a new number and maybe paint it? And then Duval, they get interrupted. He clearly hits a nerve here because Duval is about to like punch him, right? Or something. Or he's like choking him.
Yeah. Oh man, he got crazy eyes. He could not believe that he was being told this.
Was it just me too, or was like the old CG like making the crazy eyes worse?
I mean, worse and better at the same time. Yeah. Like, man, he's gonna kill this guy in like 3 seconds.
Yeah, Oliver May.
Poor Oliver.
Yeah, he was gonna. Yeah. I thought he was gonna throw him over the edge.
I'm glad that the animation paid a lot of attention to, differences between people. It seems a lot of the times in animated series, almost everybody's like average height, right?
Yeah.
But when Duval meets May, it's very clear that he's a big guy and May's not.
Right.
So yeah, May May had a look of terror in his face.
Yeah, he was about to be thrown over the railing, which is like 50 feet in the air.
He had the fear of God. Duval will do anything to protect the Zuda.
Right. So, but by that happening, we now know that basically Zeon is lying, and that the new Zuda is basically the same as the old Zuda. I mean, maybe they tried to fix it, but clearly whatever they did didn't work.
They not only that, Brian, but is this when the Federation releases their rebuttal propaganda video?
That's right. So immediately after this, so Duval gets upset, but they are interrupted by a counter propaganda video from the Federation.
Specifically from London, it was Earth Federation Space Forces London.
Yeah, and they are apparently also already aware that the new Zuda is a farce, and they basically say, you guys are joking, and by the way, we're gonna take over Odessa. So
they said we want Odessa.
Oh, did they? Did they already say that? I don't remember.
They showed the map and then like all the Federation troops moving into Zeon territory.
Cute little like graphic, yeah.
Yeah, and that information was not made aware to the rest of the crew of the Jotunheim.
Right.
And they were quite shocked, but the captain laid out the facts and said, yeah, I think we lost.
I think it's not going well. And I thought it was interesting in how how Zeon gave orders, right? They didn't say, Zeon didn't say, hey, everybody, Odessa's been taken, go help them. They just said, hey, if you're in this range, we need you to head here. It didn't say why, but the captain was like, well, clearly we lost and we need to go rescue the people, so let's go.
I mean, well, before I address that, my favorite part of the Federation video, though, Brian, was when they had like the little chibi, the chibi Zuda and Zaku.
Oh yeah, that? Yeah, I do. Apparently, propaganda videos in the Universal Century are like very distinctly Japanese because they love chibi mobile suits.
It's like a little meme war between someone you don't like. You guys are just texting each other back and forth how much one of you is an idiot. I like how they showed the Zuda walking away, and then like the Zaku was like laughing. Yep.
Yeah, it's like a Twitter feud, essentially.
Exactly. But man, I've always thought to myself, all right, we got glimpses of Zeon evacuating from after Odessa, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody leaving from the California base and a little bit in 8th MS team. But this shows what a shitstorm it was, right?
Yeah.
How craptacular of an operation it was. They just left them in space. Everyone's in an HLV capsule, sitting in space. They didn't even have fleets ready and waiting for them.
They did not. It was a pretty precarious situation, and there's just hundreds of these escape pods just floating there. Yeah. And so the Jotunheim heads in to rescue them. And I don't even really know what is the Jotunheim going to do. If they can't take them all back, I mean, they could take like a few.
Better to save a few than none,
I suppose. Yeah.
And time's of the essence too, because what was that ship flying? Was that a Zanzibar, Brian?
It was a Zanzibar, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, the Zanzibar, one of the few ships that can leave Earth orbit on its own.
Yeah.
Who knows how it got damaged, but it lost steering or something, and it hit one HLV, and then it started like a chain reaction. HLVs are pretty much pinballs, apparently, and they just started bouncing off each other, destroying each other. It was ridiculous.
It's mass chaos. Yeah, I mean that's like the nightmare scenario for space in general. Like this played out a little bit in the film Gravity. If anyone's seen that.
Oh yeah.
But basically, we Earth, just in the real world, we have all these satellites up there, and it's very important that you don't crash your satellite into another satellite, because if you do, both satellites are traveling so fast that they will explode into very many small pieces that we can then not track very well. But then all of those pieces are also moving very fast, and they will take out other satellites. And so there's this nightmare scenario, which there's a name for it, I think, but I think it may have been part of Gravity. It may have been another film.
No, it was Gravity.
Yeah, if too many blow up, then basically all of them will be taken out eventually, because there's just too much debris that you can't control, and you just kind of have to wait a long time for it to kind of coalesce and then go pick it up, I suppose. But
decades or longer.
Yeah. But instead of satellites here, you almost have that situation with the Zeon escape pods and the Zanzibar, because I thought that's where this was going, Isaac. I thought all those things were going to basically get blown up by debris, because he crashes into a few pods and then a few of those blow up, and I was like, oh man, this is going to be a big chain reaction here.
And then, Brian, things went from bad to worse because who shows up at this these fish in a barrel?
The custom shark balls, of course.
Yes, the Federation comes out of nowhere like the vultures they are. They swoop down on the wounded animals that are the unarmed, well, not unarmed, but relatively defenseless Zeon HLVs. A couple of Zaku's pop out of their little HLVs, but they're ground types.
Yeah.
So they're essentially sitting ducks, you know. This was a war crime on its own. Federation's making war crimes left and right, all right?
Yeah.
First, they broke the Geneva Convention and were wearing they were piloting Zaku's, right?
Yeah.
Completely disregarding the need to identify themselves in combat. And then now they're attacking unarmed retreating troops.
Yeah.
It's terrible,
It's
Brian.
insidious.
It's terrible.
But the Jotunheim is here, and they launched the Zudas, Isaac, because they got no other choice. I mean, yeah, maybe it's got that upper limit problem, but hey, we got to protect these guys. So the Zudas go out, led by Mr. Jean-Luc Duval, and I think Cadillac goes out in one of them, and they take out the balls pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But then is it a Salamis or a Magellan that shows up, and they launch 6 GMs, Isaac. It's a bigger task. That's a taller order.
Can I just say that these space-type GMs look pretty damn great?
They do, yeah.
Yeah.
The space GMs I've always thought look pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a good contrast, right, between the Zuda and the GM.
Oh, yeah. Color palette-wise and the silhouette and all that. Yeah. Plus, I mean, these GMs had an awesome intro.
They did.
You know, like, if they're introduced like this in the series, it'd be awesome too.
Yeah.
But, you know.
So Mr. Duval takes out 2 GMs pretty effortlessly with his Zuda. So already you're thinking, okay, these GMs are kind of like whatever. The Zuda's performing well, Isaac. I gotta say, I like the performance of the Zuda in the show. It seems like in the hands of a capable pilot who maybe doesn't want to test the upper limit, that this thing could have done well in Abaoku. They were fighting GMs all day in Abaoku,
Yeah.
and he's doing fine against them. So it seems great, to be honest with you.
You could almost say it's having a hot streak.
Oh,
Zing.
it's about to get hotter.
Oh.
So then, what's Duval's logic here? He starts flying away. So he's trying to draw the GMs away, I suppose.
I assume his logic was if they leave and the GMs leave. Actually, I don't know. I have no idea what his logic was. They essentially matched them by this point, mobile suit to mobile suit, right?
Well, there's three Zudas against 4 GMs left because Duval. It was 6 GMs against 3 Zudas. Duval killed 2 GMs, so that leaves 3 on 4.
I'm not sure what his logic was, but maybe he assumed correctly that as the ace, the GMs would follow him if he started booking it.
Yeah,
That would give Cadillac the opportunity to just, get behind the GMs and pick them off.
and it worked.
Yeah.
The GMs did follow him, so he's pushing it, Isaac. He's pushing it into the red. He knows it can't go into the red. It becomes clear though that the GMs have the same problem, and one of the GMs kind of. His engine shorts out, and Cadillac is able to just take him out when he falls behind. And then we kind of hear Duval's.
It gives himself a eulogy.
Yeah, he gives himself his own eulogy. And he basically he's out to prove that the Zuda is a real mobile suit, contributing to the fight and not some phantom propaganda fighter.
I mean, he was right.
Yeah, so he pushes it. The other 3 GMs, they burn up. But his Zuda also explodes in a big fireball.
But he saved the day. He saved countless Zeon lives, and the Zuda was remembered as that one experimental mobile suit that was pretty bad, but in the hands of an ace, it kicked ass.
It was pretty good, yeah. And this was the first report where Oliver said that he had no idea what to write. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, well, all right, the guy that died was brave, but also almost killed him. So it's okay to have mixed feelings.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Duval clearly had some issues, right? I mean, probably shouldn't have been trying to kill May.
I assume he'd been humiliated for a year longer because he was clearly involved with the original Zuda, and then that failed. So he had to pretty much watch his rivals, pretty much his enemy, right? The Zeonic and the Zaku. We use their mobile suits and have the glory of the war, while his is relegated as a failed, also ran.
Right.
And now he finally has a chance to redeem himself. So
Yeah.
he does it.
You did it, Duval. I fell in love with the Zuda. I don't know. What'd you think of the Zuda, Isaac?
I think it's interesting looking. I wouldn't spend a whole lot of money getting the model, but I'd be happy to have it. Yeah, really interesting design, interesting face. Sort of the Boba Fett Zaku.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I think it was a good design. I liked that it was different enough from the Zaku, but still very much Zeonic. What amazed me most about it is that, in a lot of series we've seen people try to make the next Zaku, and this one seems better than all the attempts to make another Zaku. Like the Jin. Like, I like the Zuda better than the Jin.
Yeah, just looking at it, it looks faster than the Zaku. Like, almost like Zeonic's approach was, okay, we're going to go for speed. This will be a mobile suit space fighter. As opposed to maybe Zeonic said, you know what, we need something well-rounded that can do a lot of things. So that's what we'll put in the Zaku.
Right. Similar to the Hildolfr, I would be more than happy to see this show up again, in some side stories somewhere. Like, this is a suit that I think could very well pop up if you're following a mobile suit team somewhere, and maybe they have one Zuda, or just somehow they got a hold of one Zuda. I think that would be fun to have on the team. Similar to in 0083, that one guy had a Zommel. Like, that was super cool.
Yeah.
I don't think you need a fleet of Zudas, but it would be neat if every now and then one popped up,
I've actually read that the Zommel is the heir of the Hildolfr.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If you look at them, it's very similar head, right? Sort of a forward, long-necked head with a mono eye, and also the reliance on having one cannon on one shoulder.
Yeah.
Sort of the arms being similar too.
That makes sense.
The Zuda, to an extent, was a dead end, right? We never see anything similar to it again.
Not really. I did read that certain parts were perhaps used on the Dom or something like that, but
I'm not buying that at all. I'm going to say Duval, he fudged those numbers too.
Yeah, we really can't trust anything that guy says, I suppose.
No. Also, do you remember what May's superior officer at the engineering corps told him? Did he actually say, yeah, it is a new suit, or did he say, well, you kind of have to look between the lines?
No, I think he was the one telling May, hey, these old ones, they blew up. Are you sure? And May was like, yeah, I think it's good. And then, of course, right after that, then they had the test pilot die. Yeah. So
he's like, okay, good luck out there, kid.
Yeah.
We'll call him General Monocle. He's
Engineer Monocle.
Yeah, Bureaucrat McMonocle. Because he never leaves that desk.
Yes. So there are 2 Zudas left at this point, and they are assigned to the Jotunheim. And Zeon basically just tells them, hey, you can use your Zudas for self-defense going forward.
Those mobile suits that explode, those are your team now.
Go ahead and keep them.
Good luck, guys.
Just don't push them too hard. But could we have a Zaku? Nah, just keep the Zudas.
Yeah. How about Zaku 1s? Nope.
Zudas are good. But again, the Zuda looked better than a Zaku. Just don't push it into the red.
Yeah, that seemed to be its only flaw, right? Don't hit the red line.
Right. So if that's your only restriction, I think it's okay.
There must be a software thing we can do, right?
Yeah,
where we put a limit.
Yeah.
Just no matter how far you put down the pedal, it's not going past this number.
Right. Just hold on. So I do think that does come back in the second part of the trilogy. So I look forward to seeing the Zuda again.
I can't wait. This was such a good 3-part opening series. Opening to the series. I just had so much fun. So many interesting moments that I didn't see coming. I always wanted, like a lot of fans, content from the side of Zeon is awesome, right? Because it's so rare.
Right.
But this really stuck the landing. It was interesting. The combat was great. Sure, the animation's a little bit dated, but that doesn't matter after a while. It's such a well-done story.
Yeah, after you watch it for 5 minutes or so, your eyes kind of adjust, and that's just how this thing that you're watching looks. So
yeah,
we've said this a lot on this podcast, but I wouldn't let a dated animation stop you from consuming anything in particular this show that we're talking about right now. But yeah, I really liked it. On my 10 Haro scale, I think I'd actually give it a solid 9 out of 10. It has tight, concise stories, great fights, memorable characters, and adds to the lore in interesting ways. The worst things I can say about it are maybe it's too short form, and the animation is dated and sometimes a bit wonky.
Man, I'm on my 5 Haro scale, Brian, and I will give this 5 out of 5 Haros.
Wow.
I can't think of that many flaws it has.
Yeah, I mean, I'm taking away one because the animation's not great, and it's pretty short form. You don't get a whole lot behind the characters.
True.
But yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great.
I had to max it out because if I saw this when it came out at the time, I would think this animation is incredible.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a weird thing, right? You know, how that could change change your opinion.
You know what? With how AI works nowadays, I would not be surprised if this got some kind of update or reskin, and you know, it just comes out looking incredible.
Oh, like automatically, like they could run it through a program or something.
I don't know.
I can see that.
They do something to it, or you know, crisp it up.
Crisp it up a bit. Yeah, just put it in the oven a little bit more.
Yeah, but if you're on the fence about watching this MS IGLOO Hidden 1 Year War, I cannot recommend it enough, and happily it is available on with a quick YouTube search, I think.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only official way to watch it would be to buy the. I mean, there is a Blu-ray, and it's pretty reasonable. You buy one Blu-ray, you get the entire trilogy of trilogies. So you get all 9 episodes. So it's a decent deal, I think. You don't have to buy volume 1, 2, 3 or anything. But yeah, I'm sure it's a series that's sort of forgotten. So I'm pretty sure that Sunrise probably isn't monitoring YouTube too much for this one. So I'm sure you could find it pretty quickly.
Also, I mean, I assume that there's not a ton of kits that you can get. There's not a ton of Gunpla coming out of IGLOO. You know,
probably not. I don't think there's a master grade Zuda.
You're not going to build a Jormungand.
That would be cool though. I mean, Isaac will for his Gelgoog, Jormungand.
Jormungand. Yeah. Yeah. So many good moments. So many awesome little set pieces they built. And it's good to see how they personify the Federation as evil, right? Attacking unarmed people, hijacking Zaku's, and man, Zeon never thought of that. They never took gyms.
Yeah, well, they had their own Zaku's, and maybe they didn't have to. But
yeah, by that point, they got plenty of problems.
That's true. They could have used some gyms. So yeah, overall, highly recommended. If you're a fan of the 1 Year War, go watch this. It's a good show, especially if you love deep Gundam lore. You'll find a lot to love here. So highly recommended.
I can't wait to continue the story, Brian, and watch the next part of IGLOO.
Yeah, so over the next few weeks, I'm sure we'll spice in the other 2 parts.
It's gonna be awesome, everybody.
So Isaac's gonna fly through it faster than Duval's Zuda flew through that the atmosphere and blew up.
Oh man, yeah, I'm gonna redline it all the way. I'm gonna move like the Hildolfr on one tread. Do the pop a wheelie.
Yeah, even Duval even had me. He's like, by the end of it, I was like, man, the Zuda's the hero.
You're like, yeah, we're gonna stop these federations.
We just need more Zudas.
Yeah,
people who listen to orders.
I mean, could a lot of it have been avoided though if the head of the engineering corps was more honest with May, or at least gave him more clear direction? Like, you know what, you're gonna go out there and he's gonna say it's okay, but it's really not okay. Like, be ready for it to explode. He should have told him.
Yeah, or it could be solved with a software patch.
Yeah, that too. They just put like a block of wood.
Yeah.
On like underneath the pedal at a certain part, so that way the pedal never goes past. Yeah, Isaac Engineering Corps. We just solved it. We just solved how to fix the Zuda.
Saved you 6 months of testing. We just got this piece of wood. We're good. Good to go.
That's what I do. I'm looking out my window right now, and I see the great Degwin going by, flashing its little light, and saying, "We couldn't have done it without you, Isaac. We're all counting on you." With the block of wood production.
I love it. All right, everybody.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and remember, before you go to sleep, stand next to your bed, get on your knees, put your hands together, look up at the ceiling, and hail Zeon.
Pray to Degwin. Good night, everybody.